folks. So we're trying a new format. What we used to do is do one filming of Into the Abyss and then one filming of the Saturday Night Horror Movie Club. What we're trying to do, and I think maybe like Tom said earlier, this may be simply because we're coming out of quarantine and we're really just starved for downtime with our friends.
We've been giving hugs a lot.
Yeah. What we're trying to do,
leather and handcuff time.
No. Anyway, what we're trying to do is we're trying to mix Into the Abyss segments with watching a movie, because I think at this point we want to do Into the Abyss business, but we also just want to hang out.
But then again, you're also just going to get these over the following week, so it's going to be broken up anyway.
That's true. So, tonight's movie, it's Halloween. We're not watching a Halloween movie per se. We've already given our Halloween movie recommendations, and last time we watched The Fog. We're going to watch a movie that's new, that's fresh, that a lot of people have been talking about, that, I'll get this posted in the next day or so, that maybe you can get a chance to watch before Halloween. And this movie is called A Dark Song. I know nothing about it. All I know is people like Josh Malerman, of all people, the guy who wrote Bird Box, the movie with Sandra Bullock in it.
The book.
He's been raving about it. The synopsis of A Dark Song is a heartbroken woman and a recluse occultist perform an... I should know.
We're 3 hours in and 3 drinks in, so.
But the problem with that is, though, as an English teacher, I could be sober, and I have the worst pronunciation ever.
I can attest.
Any former students that have slightly complicated names know I don't need any alcohol to totally butcher their name. Moving on. Okay. A heartbroken woman and a recluse occultist perform an ancient dark ritual to bring her child back to life. Boom, boom, boom. But missteps have consequences and unknown evils are unleashed. We've heard really good things about this. So, as is our formula, we're going to start watching the movie. About 20 minutes in, we'll stop and give our initial responses. About halfway in, we'll stop and be like, well, here's our thoughts so far. And then close to the end, we'll give another thought, and then we'll give our closing comments. So we will see you in just a couple minutes for our initial thoughts about A Dark Song. Okay, here we are, about roughly 30 minutes into A Dark Song. Tom, what are your thoughts so far?
Well, it's interesting. It's an IFC film, and I actually enjoy IFC pretty well.
They do good stuff.
And
yes, they do.
Yes, what we have is honestly a woman who's lost her child, having an occultist there, and I guess she wants to see her child again. However, it's pretty obvious. I wouldn't say he's using dark magic, but definitely pagan magic. And her sister tried to approach her saying it was ungodly. And I mentioned to Kevin and Chuck already about this, like, not trying to sound mean, and yes, I don't have kids, so I can't really speak for it, but to be honest, she's sounding a little selfish in terms of willing to turn to what would be essentially dark magic to see her son again, not realizing that can cause even greater harm. So she's not, I don't think she's thinking in the best interest of her child, but her own selfish interests.
Your thoughts, Chuck?
Yeah, going off what Tom said, they're both her and the occultist. I don't know what the term would be, but priest type guy or whatever. Just go with occultist.
Reclusive occultist.
Recluse
occultist.
Or recluse occultist, if you're Kevin. They're both, non-sympathetic heroes here. They're more characters. They're both. I don't know. They both have their flaws, and I think their flaws are showing through heavily. That's not a critique of the film. That's just the tone they went for. That's right. Here. I agree with Tom. She is very selfish, and you can see that there. I mean, death is natural. It's obviously not fun. Obviously, that's a very tragic thing to go through, and I know people have gone through that. But she's pushing into it anyway. She's handling it in a very bad way, where she's trying to break what's natural for her advantage, and that is a selfish thing. It's hard to critique that because you understand it's extremely difficult what she's going through, but she is, as Tom said, setting things up to be worse. Meanwhile, the occultist that's there, not a very likable character.
No, he's kind of a jerk.
He's a jerk. They hinted at him being a drunk. He's very abusive in the way he talks to her. If you're looking for heroes, they're not here. But as I said before, this is not a critique of the film. That's just a very strong presence they've set and a very broken baseline for the movie.
So I'm going to offer a moderately dissenting opinion because that's just how I do. So I would agree with, first of all, the occultist, the reclusive occultist or the recluse occultist, however you say it. He's kind of a jerk. He's a little manipulative. He's a little abusive. Absolutely. As far as the mother, in Hereditary, which is a very similar film tone-wise, the mom was not, I don't know about you, but I didn't find the mom to be very sympathetic. I don't find this mom nearly as unsympathetic. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, I would love to say if my child died, I would be all accepting and death is natural. I can't promise you that. So I'm not finding the mom nearly as unsympathetic as maybe the mom in Hereditary. I am, the tone of the movie though is very similar, if anyone has seen The Ritual, based on the novel by Adam Neville. Very, very similar tone. It's just got that muted, very spare soundtrack music. I'm guessing, though, even though I disagree slightly with Tom and Chuck, I'm guessing that what you're going to see is that in her selfishness, we're going to see kind of a cautionary tale here, in that in her grief and whatever, things like that, she's going to end up raising things that better off left.
Yeah. No, I think you're approaching the same thing just from a different angle. I agree. I am very sympathetic to her plight, but she's going headlong. It's not so much like she's naive of potential pitfalls. She's been warned that there are pitfalls. She's been warned that there definitely will be pitfalls, and she's like, I don't care. That's the scary part. That's where it gets into the part where it gets a little bit non-sympathetic, because it's not like I feel bad for you, but she's willing to break and damage and destroy anything to get there.
Yeah.
That's when it gets scary.
Yep.
Now it seems to be that, it seems like it's set up for the damages for them, which for the bigger picture is a good thing. But that's a scary situation to be in, where you're willing to bring any kind of harm for your personal relief. That's for, I think, what Tom's picking on, and that's what I'm noticing as well.
I just want to add on to that. I mean, I don't have kids, and I don't want to jump on anyone's toes here.
Yep.
But I always thought the concept of the parent to a child is that the parent lived for the child, and in this case, it's kind of like, and it's not just here. I'm sure we probably seen in other scenarios as well, where the parent assumes the child lives for them.
Yep. But it's in terms of the movie, gauge of the movie, it's been much more muted and slow at this point.
Yes.
Again, I'm also getting
very
I'm not
measured.
critiquing it. That's measured is a good term. I don't want to say slow. Measured. It feels like it's about to go off a cliff. But it's been it felt more like a drama at this point.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. We're about almost an hour in.
And a couple of Pringles.
Yeah, a lot of Pringles.
And some swallowing.
Tom, what's your thoughts?
Okay, I think this is heading more into psychological horror, possibly. And really, it looks like with the two main characters, I mean, they're the only characters, to be honest, that's looking more like a very dysfunctional relationship more than anything else. And what are we, halfway in? Maybe.
Oh, we're more than half.
Yeah, a little over half, I think.
All right, so right now I just don't know which way this is going to turn. The only thing I'm very concerned about is if it really ends badly. That's when I feel like I've lost so much time.
Yep. Chuck?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's heavily focused on the relationship between the two characters. Kevin, you were mentioning the fact that you don't really know if he's a con man or not. that's the tension that's there. That's the overriding theme that's there. Is this a bunch of hooey? Is he just using her? Is he just making getting money off of this situation, stuff like that? We don't know, and that's the tension that's there for us as an audience and for her as a character. We don't know if this is just full of it, and in the meantime, she's going with a very broken means. They're stressing over and over again that she's. We said earlier, the first review, it's a selfish reason. It's deeper than that. It's broken. She's coming from a broken perspective and trying to heal things in all the wrong ways. And she's well aware of that. And so it's a very dysfunctional situation, and we're just kind of waiting to see which way it's going to crash.
Yeah, and again, like Chuck was saying, I mean, the plot synopsis, of course, those can always be misleading. The plot synopsis leads us to believe that something supernatural is going to eventually happen. But even given that, you can very easily see the woman's fear that she's being misled, or that she's, in her desperation to communicate with her child again, she has willfully entered into an abusive relationship. So that'll be the interesting part of this movie. What is the payoff going to be? Is there going to be a supernatural aspect, or is this a character study about a person desperate to do anything, and maybe a guy who is A, either taking advantage of her, or B, maybe he's just as deluded as she is and trying to help her in any way that he can, but he's still hurting her in the process.
Not to mention, looking at all of these so-called rituals and all that, they're not taking one road. They're talking, I mean, the concept of asking her if she can speak German, they're drawing Chinese figures all over the place. They're essentially taking mysticism from all over the world, so to me, it looks like it's going in the direction of they're both in some type of self-delusion.
Also, too, at this point, a lot of the rituals are very debasing to the female character. He is, at the very least, he gets
very uppity as soon as she challenges him.
Yes, and he is claiming that this isn't fun for him either. But again, it's so hard in today's world. I mean, we could view this through a feminist perspective or not. But like it or not, at this point, what he's doing to her is tantamount to abuse. So it'll be interesting to see how this movie, are we going to see demons? Or is this just a con man abusing a woman in her
And I think the conversation we're having here, I think that's what sets us apart from most movies, if not all movies. It's very different. This is not a Blumhouse type production where you start to see obvious manifestations in the house and things like that. They are messing with their minds and leaving us up in the air, and it does set it apart from most horror films.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I will say this: really great atmosphere at this point. Really great acting on both parts. The question is just this: if I were talking to my students, are we going to end up with a supernatural story? Or are we going to end up with an equivocal story where the ending is unresolved and we're really not sure what happened? We shall see.
This could go badly. This is a movie that it doesn't pay off, and I don't think it needs to be supernatural payoff. But this is a movie that could feel very vacant in the end. But we don't know. We don't know. Right. It's one where they need to stick the landing for this all to work because they left us in the lurch the whole time.
Yep.
There needs to be a reason for this.
All right. We have reached the end of A Dark Song.
Wait, Tom?
Tom, what's your thoughts?
No, just in 3 words or less, because I know what the 3 words are going to be.
Didn't like it.
No. What is it you said before we started rolling the film?
Oh, what a terrible piece of crap I just saw. I'm sorry. Look. Okay. You know
Wait, hold on. Maya Visveri and Olivia Ortega, this is for you. Go ahead.
No, okay.
It's our two biggest fans.
That would be more psychological and thriller than anything else. That was not horror, because for all we know, it was all happening in her head. She's upset that her kid died. She believed, some little jerk teenager has murdered her kid. But this was just one part. One part was what we're looking for. Psychologically abusive relationship. Then another part of her losing her mind and I guess regaining it. We know she spent time in a psychiatric ward, but I'm sorry. There was no real resolution to say whether or not this happened. Remember, we thought in the end that...
What did the guy die of then?
What was it? His wound was infected when he fell on that knife.
Okay, alright. Fair point.
Yeah, and nothing happened to his body when he was dragged away, so... I'm sorry. I didn't like it. I'm going to be honest.
Chuck, go ahead.
First thing I get through a yawn because it's like midnight.
Well, actually, it's 12:20. 20 past midnight. We haven't yet decided if Chuck is spending the night here or not. Go ahead.
No, I think we go home. I had a better impression of it. It went. I also will say it depends on it being literal. What was seen there. I think that's part of what throws off Tom. It went super theological, and there were hits there. First of all, I will say what I've been mentioning before, where they weren't really sympathetic characters. That was done intentionally. As I said earlier on in other breaks, it wasn't really a strike against the movie. It's just something I noticed. It was set up for a reason. She's looking for revenge. She's vengeful. That's the hint of being the unsympathetic character and the off-the-rails mother that she was. That was there, so it belongs there. I get why they went there, and I like the direction they went. I need time to think about the ending. I'm not sure if I like it or not. It's funny because I know a lot of people are curious about using a theological horror. A lot of the people that are more theologically minded are curious about the topic. I could almost recommend it to them, but then again, I think the movie goes a bit darker than what they would be willing to watch. So that's where it kind of misses the mark for them. Where if it wasn't quite so dark, they'd actually probably be on board. But then it goes theological. Some people were looking for just a more dark horror experience. It gets more into a lighter theological twist at the end. So it leaves it up in the air. It's a movie that's not really. It doesn't feel settled on what it is, and I'm not really sure I'm settled on how I feel in the ending as well. I think it makes sense. I'm just not sure right now yet, having just seen it, how much I like how the ending sticks, or the ending sticks.
I'm going to go middle of the road here. It was certainly well done. Very tense atmosphere. As we talked about already, there's that feeling of frisson there. Was this guy conning her? Was this real? Frisson. It's a phrase. It's a term that talks about that uncomfortable conflict,
friction.
No, frisson. It's different. It's an emotional thing.
Like when Tom tries to give you a back massage.
Yeah, I feel a lot of frisson when Tom tries to give me a back massage. So there's a lot of that uncomfortable feeling there because you're wondering, is this guy really, or is he being very abusive? Ultimately, I hate to disappoint my fellow horror aficionados. I was hoping for something a little bit more mainstream. The demonic, the tagline is they open doorways that they were unprepared to open or something like that. I was hoping for something more, okay, desperate mom want to contact son, gonna open this portal. Oh crap, demons, what do I do now? I was hoping for something a little bit more. Don't get me wrong, it's very well done, very well shot, very well acted.
The direction and the videography are fantastic.
Yeah. A lot of tense atmosphere, really great. I guess I was just kind of hoping for, in The Ritual, which is based on Adam Neville, it has got the same tension, but we see the monster. And we see the monster in grand fashion. And not only do we see the monster, spoiler alert, we see our protagonist basically give the monster a big middle finger. So the
literally.
yeah. So the
She gave him her
No, I'm talking about the ritual.
Oh, I thought she gave her middle.
No.
Okay.
So the ritual had all this tension, but it had that satisfaction of, yeah, there's the monster. Yeah, our protagonist beat it. Whereas in this, we have the tension, but there's that, did she win or imagine it? What happened?
Well, I think
so. That's where it falls short for me.
Yeah,
I don't have that like resolution that like yeah.
I think it's psychological thriller. I don't think it's horror.
Yeah, at the end of the ritual, where you're like yeah. At the end of this, you're like yay.
So it was IFC. It has that artsy quality to it. It has that independent film quality to it, for good and for bad. It makes you think. I think the exercise of the movie is not to give you that mainstream, wrapped up and tidy package. It's meant to just leave you thinking, and it did that. You kind of have to know that going in, I think, to fully appreciate it. But I think the budget of an IFC film also affects it. When it gets into the dark, demonic aspects of it, it felt very low budget.
Yeah.
That kind of shot it in the foot. I felt a little bit there. That budget aspect. That was
the only thing shooting.
Yeah. Well done, Tom.
Yeah, I'm not going to get to that.
Freudian slip. That's nice.
But the whole potential psychological abusive relationship. Yeah, it got dirty too.
So it felt like it was, it could have used more of a budget there. That's what I felt. It just felt a little bit off. It felt a little bit too grounded. I was actually thinking up until that scene, this movie feels very grounded, but then that part, it felt grounded for all the wrong reasons. So that ruined a little bit. And then he gets into, we're going to go full spoiler here, you get to an angel at the end. I feel like the setup wasn't there properly. I'm thinking from a storyteller standpoint. The movie that comes to mind is actually the fourth Indiana Jones film, where it goes into alien territory. And everybody balked at that idea. They didn't like aliens because it didn't feel like Indiana Jones. It felt like suddenly it's sci-fi, where Indiana Jones had been very almost theological and fantastical at that point. Suddenly, aliens just don't fit into that story. This is the reverse. This had been very grounded, very horror-based. You're okay with the demons. Logically, where there's demons, there can be angels, and then it goes to the angels. It just didn't feel like it had set it up properly to make that transition to angel. Logically, I'm on board with it. It just felt like the story didn't set up enough to welcome us into, holy crap, there's an angel there. Again, from a theological standpoint, it's interesting. It makes you think. I think where it felt a little flat was in the execution of the story.
And I would agree with Chuck there. The only explanation we have for an angel is at some point the recluse occultist.
Recluse, jeez.
A recluse occultist.
No, you're doing this on purpose.
Yeah. The recluse occultist at some point gives us a throwaway line that says, and then you will meet your angel. That's really all we have.
Yeah, it's there.
And not only do we have an angel, we have a very cliche, look at me, I'm in Roman era Empire armor.
Yep.
I must obviously be
that's part of it.
The Archangel Michael, because that's how I was portrayed during this time period.
Yep. So you get the representation of the demons feels more like a indie college art house project of I'm a demon, I'm just creepy kind of thing like that, and then but you're gonna go classical Romanesque angel.
Michael the
feels
Archangel.
a little off, like they don't quite align aesthetically. But on top of that, she goes into the movie all about how she's mad against God, she's mad against the angels, she just wants revenge. And then she just then she gets a little bit spooked by the demons, and suddenly she just.
Oh, I want to forgive.
I want to forgive.
Power to forgive.
It feels again. It was more. I'm okay with it at a surface level of where they went in the film. I just feel, and it's hard to place where it was. I just feel like a couple bits and pieces of the movie didn't turn it the right direction, so it was very sudden and abrupt into that. If the closest example I can give is Indiana Jones, fourth Indiana Jones, where suddenly surprise aliens. Even though we told you it might be aliens, it just doesn't feel right that it's aliens.
Final rating out of 5.
I'll be generous and give it a 2.
I'm gonna go with. It's hard to say. My opinion might change when I think about it more. It'll probably go up as I think about it more. I'm gonna go with a 2 as well. A lot of things are so well done, it just doesn't feel like it all fits together. It might drift into a 3. I don't think it's going to go into 4 territory. It might 2 leaning towards a 3.
As always, the softy of the group is going to go with a 3.5, just based on production values.
There was a lot I really liked about the film.
Yeah.
But I think we also mentioned during one of our breaks, it's all going to depend on how the landing sticks.
Yeah. All right, so A Dark Song on Amazon. Check it out at your peril.
Eat, drink, be scary.
Eat, drink, and be scary.